In the last video, we discussed how Spark works with spaces and teams, and we briefly discussed messaging. In this video, we want to kind of dive into Spark messaging and show you a demo of the different features you can use when you're interacting with other people inside of spaces. So real quick, we're going to go through and show how you work with message attachments, how you flag messages if you want to come back to them. We're going to explain how to view messages and also see if you can find where you stopped off on reading the last message inside of a space. That way you know all the messages that are new and what you actually haven't read. We'll explain at mentions, which are basically direct mentions, to call people out so that they know that you've called them out and can look at your message. And next will be markdown formatting, which I mentioned would be the formatting of a word or a sentence to make it bold, italic. You can do block quotes. You can do links to a website, basically hypertext or hyper markup, and many other markdown languages. Or you can do emojis. So let me go ahead and get rid of this. So I've got the Spark app. First, let me just kind of once go through the application again, like I did in the last video. You will see up here, I've got my account and it kind of has a do not disturb sign on it. That is something I selected from this little drop down. So I can go turn off do not disturb by selecting off, or I have the option to do 20 minutes, 1 hour, 8 hours, or 24 hours. So I'll go ahead and turn it off just so you see. Now I've got a green halo over my avatar, which basically says I am active. So when you see other people with a green halo, you'll know that they're actually active. So here, he's got a halo, he's got a halo. If I scroll down, I don't know if I have anyone right now that might have an out of office. So here, he's got do not disturb. Yeah, might not have anybody that's out of office right now. Oh, there you go. So right there, he has an out of office silhouette. So the next thing we want to look at is actually creating spaces. You've got the plus sign right here. So if you click on it, I can actually contact a person, which is basically a one-on-one space. So if I type in somebody's name, it's going to pull up everyone I've interacted with in the past or that's in a space with me. So it's an easy way to search and find people. Or if it doesn't find anybody when it does a search, you can type in their email address. So right here, obviously, it's populating this person. But if it doesn't populate, just type in their email address and that'll essentially be the first time you've had interaction with them. And then it should be able to find them the next time you type that in. So if I typed in someone's name and then if I click that, it goes into a space. So I've already kind of created a space for that person, so it found them. If I go once again here, let me send that up, click here and then go to create a space. Here's where I would create a space that's going to be with multiple people. So it's not a one-for-one space. It's going to be multiple people. So you usually want to give it a name. So I can say blah, blah, and then you want to add multiple people. So I would select multiple people and then you click create. So I won't create that right now because I don't want to have these people be interrupted, but that's how you would create a space for multiple people. If you're inside of a space, let me show fallback widgets. So I've got a space here. I've created it. Now you have this little information button for a space. If you click that button, you'll see all the options that you'll have if you are the moderator of a space. So I can edit the space. If I don't like the name of the space widgets, I can change the name. I can favorite this space. When you favorite a space, it's going to show up in this drop-down filter list. So if I go to these favorites, there is everything that I've favorited. I've favorited people, which are one-on-one spaces, or down here I favorited group spaces. So it makes it easier to search if you are constantly needing to go back to a specific space. Notifications. Notifications is a big one, I think. When you get added to a space or you create a space, the default notification is global. So all messages in that space are going to ping you. So it's not a big deal if you've only got Spark on your laptop, but if you've installed Spark on your iPhone or an Android device and you're in a space, let's say with 100 people or 1,000 people, if there is a lot of chatter going on in that space, your iPhone is going to be blowing up. You're going to be constantly getting, a vibrate sound or a vibrate signal that someone left a space or left a message, or you're going to get a sound notification if you don't have it on vibrate. So my recommendation to everyone is if you are in a space, turn it to @mentions only. And we'll get into @mentions later on. But @mentions only basically is if someone specifically calls you out in one of their messages, that's the only time you'll actually get a notification, because if someone's calling you out by name, then you probably want to read the message and you probably need to do something. So next, initially, we're not going to be doing much with integrations or bots, but maybe in 2018 or further down the line, we are going to look at adding integrations and potentially creating bots at Hilton. But for now, we're not really doing anything with that. Since this space is inside of a team that I created called integrations, I could remove this team, or I could remove this space from this team. You'll want to figure out if you want to remove a space from a team. It's going to be up to you and your team to figure out if it's still needed inside of a team. The last thing is to archive a space. I thought I did this a while back. Basically, it removes this space to where you don't see it anymore, and it takes it out. It puts it right here. So if you ever needed to come back to it, you could, and you can make it active. But basically, if a space is no longer needed, but you don't really want to delete it or lose it, you click archive. Otherwise, you can make it active again. So I've made it active. And the last thing I can do is leave this space. So this space is, once again, within the team called integrations. And if I don't want to be in this space anymore because it's not something I need to be involved in, or I don't need to see the notifications, I can leave the space. So I just now left the space, and you'll see now that I have 1 spaces to join within this team. So I'm no longer in that space. I'm not going to see the notifications. But if further down in the line, a week from now or in the future, I need to be involved in this space again, I can always come back and join the space. So it's just that simple. The other thing we have is the share screen. So you need to be in a call in order to share the screen. So if I wanted to, share the screen with somebody, I'm going to have to go to the activity button, click call, and then I'll be inside of a video call, and I can then click the share screen. So if I'm looking to share my screen with anyone else, they're also going to have to call in, or they're going to have to join this video, and then you'll be able to share each other's screen, and you can show them what you're looking at, whether it's a web browser, some kind of application, or whatever you want to show. The magnifying glass is pretty straightforward. It's so you can find stuff. So I can type in ELA, and it's going to go search for anything that has ELA in it. So you can see I've got 3 different spaces where it shows up, ELA shows up. It also searched for people, but nobody, I guess, had the letters ELA all together in their name. So you can play around, you can search a lot of different ways. I definitely use it to your advantage. If you're not adding spaces to your favorites, or you're not adding spaces to teams so that you can keep everything organized, then I think this search feature is going to be really handy if you can't remember where a space is that you were talking about something specific. Um, Definitely the big thing to remember is this activity button. Anytime you're in a space and you want to do something, let me go ahead and go on Do Not Disturb. So I stop getting those messages. Anytime you're inside a space and you want to do something specific, if it's not, messaging down here, if it's calling or something else, you always want to click on that activity button. That way you can either call somebody. If you have multiple people inside of this space, you can schedule a meeting. We'll go into meetings and we'll do a demo in future videos. I can click on the files button to see if anybody has actually added a file into this space. So it'll populate all the files in this space. That way I can go look at them instead of having to scroll up or down to find what files there are. The people icon will show you who all's in this space. Right now, nobody's in the space, it's just me. And then finally, the whiteboard button. I can go and create a new whiteboard, and this will come in handy if you have other people on a call, a video call or an audio call, and you're talking to each other and you want to draw stuff out. So here I'm just using my mouse on my laptop to draw out. If somebody joins a Spark video meeting or a video call from an iPad, they can use their finger to draw. And what we are going to be deploying in the future into some of our meeting rooms is what's called a Spark board. And that Spark board is going to be a 55-inch or a 70-inch video unit that you can walk into a room, have a video call, but also you can walk up to it and with your finger or with the special pins that come with the Spark board, you can start drawing, on that 55-inch unit and be whiteboarding with other people real time across the globe. If they're in another room in another corporate office that has a Spark board, or if they're at their house or on their laptop, you can all be whiteboarding together. So this activity button, I always want to call back to it, and tell people about the activity button. Always go there if you're looking to do something specific in a space that's not messaging. So I had mentioned a while back the Markdown button. So inside of this space, you've got your main area here where people are going to talk. You're going to see, messages, when this space was created. Here's all the messages from today. You'll see if people left the space, if they joined the space, or if they're typing. So here I can just type a simple message and it goes into that space. For a Markdown language, you want to click this little icon and it's going to give you information on how to do Markdown formatting. So you've got bold, italic, block quotes, lists. So if you want to do bullets, headings, links, this is always a good one for me. So if I want to type the word Cisco and have a link to a web page, this is how you would do it. So let me go ahead and start doing some examples. So if I want to do bold, I would type asterisk, asterisk, hello, bold, bold, and I'll type this. So you'll see that that has actually come up bold and this isn't bold. Nothing special. So let me do real quick. I will do here and then www.hilton.com and close it. So right there, it's created a link. So people can actually click on that and go to a website. So play with that and get used to it. It comes in handy to kind of call out what you're looking to say in a message, especially if you use bold. So I had mentioned @mentions a couple of times. I'll have to go to another space. So here, if I'm in this space and let's say everyone in this space has turned off their notifications so that it's not global and instead it's @mentions only, then when I type something in, it's people might not see the message unless they see this little red dot or these little blue dots saying that there's a new message there. So what you want to do is call somebody out with an @mention, and there's two ways to do that. You can either use this little button and click that, and I can scroll down to @mention anybody, and you'll see that it adds that name in blue, and then I can type anything here. So when I hit enter key, uh, Barry will get a notification that I've called him out with an @mention, and he'll need to go and check it. So the quicker thing for me is, instead of always clicking that @ symbol, if you start typing a name, like a capital letter, so Barry, it's going to go and look in this space, and it's going to pop up everybody that has that in their name. So I just click that, and now it's highlighted him. And I can do more. So I can type capital Kira. So it popped that up. You can @mention as many people as you want, and then type in your message. And when you hit the enter key, all of them are going to be notified if they've got their global notifications turned off and it's only set to @mentions. The next thing here is the screen capture. If you want to go and capture screen, so I'll click that. It'll close Spark, and then I can, drag it and capture the screen. And now it's got that there. And if I hit the enter key, it's going to post that picture in this space so that everybody can see it. That's not something I want to do. So the last thing here is to add an attachment. If you click that icon and go find a file, you can add an attachment. The other thing is, if you don't want to click that icon, if you actually have a document, then you can drag and drop it. And when you drag and drop it, it's now there, and I can click the enter key to post it to this space. I think the last couple of things that we showed you in the last video that I'll just go through real quickly are this filtering. So here's the filtering where I can drop it down, and right now it's always default to all, so it's showing me all of my spaces. If I only wanted to see unread messages, I could click on unread, and it's going to show me all the spaces that have unread messages. So down here I've got 2 spaces with unread messages, but no one-on-one spaces with unread messages. Or if I want to click favorites, once again there's my favorite spaces. If someone @mentions me, I can filter who all has done @mentions. You can see all of them there, the history, or the flags. So within a space, if you hover over something, like let's say here, I hover over this and I click flag for follow-up, it's going to show up under my flags. So flags is something you want to use if you see something and you decide you need to act on it or come back to it, or it's just interesting and you don't want to lose it, but you just don't have time to work on it right now, so you just want to flag that. Obviously these red flags here, the 1, 2, 3, shows me how many unread messages I have. So inside of my favorites, I've got one unread message. Obviously 2 unread right here for that filter, and then with all of them, I've got 2. To the left, you've got your navigation menu. So here is your message. Here are your teams. So if you click on that, it's going to show you all of your teams, and then you'll see within those teams how many unread messages you have. Once again, when it comes to teams, it's going to depend on your department and how you work on how many teams you create and how you interact with other departments and just your team in general. So definitely think about how you want to create teams, or if you really even need to create teams before you do it. That way it makes it a lot easier in the future that you don't have to go back and edit spaces or delete spaces or add them to a team. Think about how you're going to work with your team before you create those. The last thing here in the navigation menu is the call button. So this is where you can come and see all of your history of who you've called or who's called you. I can always go down and call back the most recent, or click the missed. And if I want to call somebody, I can go over here. I can either type, Dwayne. It'll search for people. It'll search for anyone's Spark account. Or if I need to call, let's say, into a WebEx video call, I can dial dlarson at hww.webex.com. That is going to call into a WebEx, and it's going to use my Spark app as my video unit. So I can share my webcam on my laptop and get into that video call. In the future, when we start adding the Spark video units into our rooms, you can actually connect to those video units when you go into a room, and it'll act as your device. So you would register, let's say here, I've got this Spark board, MEMHQ-demo. If I click that, it would pair up or sync up with that video unit. And when I made any kind of call from my Spark app here, it's going to control that unit. So, you're basically controlling the video unit in the room wirelessly. You don't have to walk up to it. You don't have to touch the touch screen to dial anything. You control it from your laptop sitting at the table inside of the room. The last thing, next year in 2018, when we deploy Spark Call, when it integrates with our corporate phone system, you will be able to call people from your corporate phone line using the Spark app. So right here, if I came in and dialed 91206-44500, oh, if I type it correctly, 0056 and hit the call button, that's going to call our audio bridge, our West Intercall audio bridge. So you'll notice I'm dialing 9 and then 1, just like I do from my desk phone. So if I called somebody else, someone's cell phone number from this, it's going to show up as my desk phone. It's not going to show up as, anything else, obviously not your cell phone. It's going to show up as your desk phone number. So they'll know that you're calling them, even though it's from the Spark app. The same thing will apply when you install the Spark app on your iPhone or your Android device. If you call somebody from the Spark app, or if you call them from your contacts inside of your iPhone using Spark, it's going to show up as your desk phone. It will not show up as your cell phone. So that way, if you don't want people to know your cell phone, but you want to call them from your iPhone if you're out of the office, you've got that security that knowing they will not know your cell phone. You obviously have to dial it correctly using the Spark app, but now you've got your desk number anywhere that you go, so you can travel globally, and people they can reach you from your desk number, and your cell phone will ring, or you can call them and show up as your desk phone number. That's all for this demo. The next one, we will go into how to set up Spark meetings.